What up, roomies? Tonight's episode is going to be one of those conversations that probably is going to hit a nerve because we're diving into something that's happening in real time all around us. Algorithms are raising our kids, influences are replacing role models, and a lot of young boys are trying to figure out what it really means to be a man in today's society. Some people will say masculinity is under attack, others say that young men are being radicalized online, and somehow, some way, in the middle, our parents trying to navigate a world that didn't exist when we were growing up. So tonight's episode, we're going all in. Our guest is an ICF certified coach, sociologist, meditator, trained Samiak attached coach, a podcast host, and a mother raising two boys while actively studying and navigating the rise of the manosphere, online influence culture, looks maxing, emotional isolation, and the psychological pipeline many young boys are entering today. This conversation has the potential to go really deep, and I welcome Valerie Friedlander.
Thank you.
What's going on, Val?
Oh, like all the things.
I feel you, girl. I feel you. So before we actually get into like the nitty gritty of like what look maxing is and all this other stuff, like how did you kind of like stumble upon this and like raise awareness with like the parents in like your kids' like classrooms and stuff like that? Because I know that's how it originally started like that.
Yeah. So it was so I've been in the online space for about 10 years, not like professionally speaking.
Yeah.
So, learning about, well, how do algorithms work so that people see my content and that sort of thing. So I've been learning those things for a while. So in some ways I've had a leg up from a lot of other people in my generation, a lot of the parents. And so shortly after kids started coming back to school, and we live in Chicago, so my kids go to a school, a public school in the city. And shortly after, my older son, who's in 5th grade at the time, came home, and they'd been playing imagination games on the playground, and he was going to be the cat. And his friends told him that he was going to be the Sigma cat. And I was like, what does that mean? And he's like, I don't know. They just told me that I was going to be the Sigma cat. And I was like, that's an interesting word. Like, where is this word coming from? How is it entering the vocabulary of these 5th graders? Because I know, and I've had I had enough things come home already that kids were picking up online that I was kind of really paying attention. And so I looked up, I know Sigma is a Greek letter, but where is it coming from? So looked it up and found, okay, well, there's the alpha, which is the top dog, the beta, which is the underdog. And then there's Sigma, which is like the lone wolf. So I'm thinking, Bruce Willis, that sort of, Tom Cruise kind of character, right? Like I gone on my own doing the thing, and then, so I was like, okay, I know what that is. And then I saw, oh, this is typically being used in the manosphere. And my first reaction to that was, that is dumb.
Yeah.
Like, what is that name? Who named this the manosphere? So that was my first reaction. Then I read about it and I was like, this is terrifying. What is this?
No, you're absolutely correct. And this is coming from somebody who, even my own friends, like they've subscribed to like certain topics of it, and I'm like, bro, this is completely dumb. Like, I understand if there's like certain influencers that are like, all right, cool, men don't get treated right in court, or men, all right, I get that. Like, when you fight for rights, cool. But when you start like degrading people and start like trying to like, what's the word? Oppress the opposite sex. I'm like, all right, cool. Yeah. Now you guys are like wilding out. I can't really mess with you on that.
Well, you're buying into the hierarchical system that is naturally oppressive, and basically saying, if I feel oppressed, I don't want to be on the bottom. I want to be on the top. So thus I should oppress other people. There's a whole dynamic I'm sure we'll get into. I just want to clarify, what I was thinking was dumb was the name. Like, it was before I even knew what it was. I was like, the manosphere, really?
Yeah.
Who called it that? Like, who
and then
came up with that name?
That has, and then the whole red pill, blue pill thing. I was like, what's wrong with you guys?
Yeah. Well, and I am a big Matrix fan. I love science fiction.
Facts.
That's why I'm a super science fiction nerd. And I was like, this is so go there, like looking at it. I mean, first of all, I was kind of going, okay, this is concerning because statistically speaking, at least one of these kids is going to go down this rabbit hole. Because if it's holding their attention enough that they're playing with it, that it's incorporating into imagination games, then it's the algorithm's going to pick up on that. That's holding their attention. And the tendrils of it are everywhere, just like you were saying, with friends and stuff. You hear it might not be the manosphere, but the pieces of it, the aspects of it are all over the place, and they play into the dynamic. I'm going to use a kind of a word that triggers some people, but like the patriarchy. And patriarchy, when I use that term, I'm thinking about the hierarchy structures of men, the assumption that men know more, can do more, are, stronger, smarter, all of these things that if we put it out in the open, you might be like, I don't believe that. But the behaviors that go, the assumptions that we make, the in-group assumptions that get made about other people without really reflecting and thinking about it. And we're in a culture where there's no room to reflect and think about. Everything's moving so fast. We don't have the time to pull back and pause. And parents are so busy. It's hard to take the time and go, what does that mean? What's important to you about that? Like, what is that about? Because even just stopping to ask the question interrupts some of the thinking, just like, you were saying with your friends, like, what? Like, why are you doing that? Like, what is that about? Asking a question creates a pause and requires thought. And you might, I didn't mean it like that. Okay. Well, what did you mean it like if you didn't mean it like that?
Exactly. And are you just like trying to like ride this wave because you think it's kind of cool or it appeals to you? Like, I truly feel that with certain behaviors, especially when it comes to men's rights and all that good stuff, like I believe that we're sometimes misrepresented, but sometimes is like just a group of us just takes it way too far. And I'm like, like, cool, yes, I understand that we're supposed to be protectors, providers, and all this other good jazz. Like, fine, I'm with that. But at the end of the day, it doesn't mean that we're here to like say, oh no, this person's not a good person or this person isn't manly enough or whatever it is. It's just that, like, who are you to like kind of like do these labels? And I personally feel that, especially with younger kids, like this is a bad path to nowhere, because now we're seeing the effects of those things like in the dating scene and like all that good stuff. And I'm like, and I'm lucky that I'm born in like the 80s, like 89. Like I saw the transition of everything. So like I'm kind of normal, not too normal, but I'm kind of normal, I would say.
Whatever normal is.
Whatever normal is, but I'm functional enough to be like to hold a healthy relationship and not have those kind of like mindsets installed in me while looking for a partner or with my partner. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, a lot of it comes down to judgment. How am I judging somebody? How am I labeling someone? How am I placing someone? Again, one of the things that so watching Louis Theroux's Inside the Manosphere documentary really highlighted some things about the dynamics there. And it's one of the things that stood out to me is a lot of these guys almost get it. Right? They're like, there's a system that's oppressing us. Yeah, there is. But instead of going, we should dismantle this system, they're going, I'm going to create my own system where I'm oppressing other people, where I'm the one who's on the top of the oppression chain, instead of going, maybe we shouldn't be oppressing people.
Okay.
Maybe that's the problem, not where I am in the hierarchy of it. Maybe it's the hierarchy that's the issue.
I get that. And like, how much of a role does like oppression and like trying to make yourself look better than the other person really plays a part in that?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and we have a biological need for belonging.
True.
Like we need community. We're communal creatures. And one of the things that's happening is that our nervous systems are being played upon by a lot of the spaces, the online spaces. What holds our attention is typically, and it's like watching a train wreck, that's going to hold your attention more than looking at the flowers because of protection.
Of course.
And especially anything that threatens I'm part of this group. Because if I'm isolated, if I'm not in the group, then the lion will eat me.
True.
Right? Then I'm vulnerable. So I can't be vulnerable. So I need to fit in. Ideally, we're not trying to fit in. We're actually belonging in a space. But when you live in a hierarchy system, fitting in is the thing that gets emphasized. And this is happening so much in our classrooms, in our schools, because these kids, I mean, I know I was bullied when I was a kid, right?
Yeah.
Like that is, it's kids trying to figure out how the world works, and they're playing with those ideas with each other. True. And so you might have a kid who says something, maybe they don't believe it yet, but they say it to see how everybody else reacts to it. You know, is it a positive reaction or is it a negative reaction? And if it's a positive reaction, then okay, then that's good. I'm going to file that in. This is a good thing. This is good for me, versus this is a bad thing. If the reaction is negative, then it's like, oh, okay, put that one down. And so part of then what happens is it kind of gets self-affirmed. Oh, I said this thing. Maybe it made everybody uncomfortable, but they laughed and they didn't, say that was a problem because they didn't know to say that was a problem. They hadn't been given any kind of guidance around that's not okay. Like if they weren't talked to about it beforehand, then they're going to set up the structure for themselves. Oh, that's funny. One of my kids brought home somebody that he knew said, I wouldn't hang out with people if they looked a certain way, like if they were heavier, going to the looks maxing stuff, right? Like if they were a heavier person, I wouldn't hang out with them. And nobody interrupted that. They didn't say, well, why? What's wrong with that? Like, why wouldn't you do that? It was just like, oh, yeah. And I talked to my son about it. I was like, hey, I don't know if this friend actually believed that when they said it, but if nobody interrupted it, then it's going to affirm that is the right thing to believe.
Yeah.
And then that, of course, then affirms that, well, I'm not good enough to show up as myself. I need to, if I'm not perfect, if I don't look right, then maybe I should hide. I should do things that are actually harmful to my physical well-being in order to belong, in order to fit in with people who I need to fit in with. And so that's leading to some really toxic behaviors. I mean, up into the influencer who was on the news recently because he OD'd on camera. Like those sorts of things are happening because they're trying to understand themselves in the world. And this is why I tell parents all the time, like, it's not about keeping them from the content. The content is everywhere. It's everywhere.
It is.
And so, it's like saying be abstinent. Telling a kid to be abstinent doesn't mean they're not going to have sex. It means that they're not going to be prepared to be safe, to find consent, to do all the healthy relationship things that you need to do before you step into that level of responsibility. So if you don't create the context, if you don't frame the conversation, somebody else is going to frame it for you. And they're getting exposed to it earlier. My younger son, this was during lockdown, he was in kindergarten and he was curious about pregnancy. And because my sister was pregnant and one of the people he follows online who does Minecraft stuff was pregnant, and he found porn in kindergarten.
Dang.
And so, I feel like constantly I'm in a space where I'm like, take a deep breath and go, okay, we're gonna have this conversation now.
We're gonna have this now.
Now we're gonna talk about this. Awesome. All right. But I also have a lot of tools from my profession for nervous system regulation, for having curious conversations, for, taking that deep breath and diving in and going, okay, I'm really uncomfortable and this is important, so I'm going to do it anyway.
No, I get you on that. And what are like the things that parents are missing most right now? Like trying to navigate through all of this.
Yeah.
Like what information or like what are like parents like mostly like are being blindsided by right now?
I think a lot of it is the way the algorithms work. The way it's set up is that we see what speaks to us. And I think there's more conversation. I think there's more awareness around that. But your kid is not seeing the same thing that you're seeing. And I think that's really important to know, is that I've had a lot of conversations where I've been like, hey, have you talked to your kid about this? No, why? Well, I'm blessed with a kid who shares a lot of information with me, and your kid's talking about it. So if you're not talking to them about it, then they're getting their framing from somebody else. And people think, oh, I've locked everything down. Our kids know more about technology than we do. Even if you're a techie person, like, the spaces that they occupy, they're going to get exposed. So start having the conversations now. And if you aren't comfortable, if you don't know how to have those conversations, there are lots of resources. One of my favorites is Parents Together. They have an Instagram, they have a website, and they've got great resources around having uncomfortable conversations. But I think people are waiting until it's in their face, till there's a problem or something that they perceive as a problem. And by then it's often gone a lot farther than anybody would ever want it to.
I got you on that. And when it comes down to like social media and the algorithms, what are like some steps that you've taken to like help kind of like mitigate like some of that content being shown to your kids? Because I'm pretty sure, like, you said your eldest son was in the 5th grade during the pandemic, so he's probably like in high school now.
Yeah.
So that that's gone.
Yeah.
But like, how do you kind of like help them like navigate the algorithm without them getting like too much adult content or too like violent content or content that basically radicalizes them?
Yeah. I mean, there are things that you can do. There are settings that you can put together. I think the thing that I have focused a lot more on is making sure that I understand the dynamics and that I help them be literate, not just in how to work the things, but how it's working on them. Ultimately, online, we are the product.
That's a fact.
Many of us are content creators. Like, we do make content. So in some ways we are creating, but we're also consuming, and we are being like, in attention capitalism, people are the product.
Yeah, and influence is currency.
Exactly. So knowing that when you go online, the effort that is being put in, directly, indirectly, however, is to hold your attention there. So anything that holds your attention. So helping them with critical thinking, helping them build relationships, helping them feel safe to come to me with questions. I ran into this. I saw this thing. Okay, well, let's talk about it. I mean, my younger son, then this happens like even on like Spotify, right? My younger son and his friend found this song that was really raunchy, had a lot of like content that was, it's like, some of this is normal for kids to be curious about bodies and things like that. But then it also bridged into the like sexual assault, joking about sexual assault, joking about things that was a problem. But my kid's like, let's listen to this song. And his friends over here like, no, let us not listen to this song with your mother in the car. And I was like, okay, well, I'm looking at the title and going, okay, we're going to have a conversation about this if we listen to this. Yeah. All right. So we turn it on. We were listening. I'm like, okay.
All right.
So we stop halfway through and I'm like, what do you think we need to talk about when it comes to this song? And he told me, and then he was like, well, what? I was like, and what else? And he goes, well, what else do you think? I'm like, well, you're right about these things, and here are some other things that I noticed.
Yeah.
You know, so being able to not jump in with a lot of shame, like, how dare you? Why are you listening to that? Like, that's awful, like judgment, but to step in with curiosity helps them feel safe to be curious. And so I think those, more than how do I stop them from being exposed to it, how do I help them know how do I help them learn how to be curious about what they're being exposed to?
I got you on that. What?
Because I'm just one person. Like, I can't stop the system that is, I believe, actively trying to recruit them. Because here's the thing. Kids who are isolated, young men who are isolated, but people in general who are isolated are more manipulatable because we need people. And so if we're not connected, then we're easy to manipulate, to buy things, to buy into certain ideas. So the more connected, the more safe we feel, the more we can think critically. This goes right into brain science and learning. We learn through play. That's how we learn best. If we don't feel safe, we shut down our ability to learn. So creating a safe space to be able to learn new things is critical.
No, I got you on that. So like, because the thing about it is like, I'm just wondering, like, why do young kids, right, like kind of like look up to like these kind of like radicalized influencers that are spewing like, some facts are on point, but a lot of it's like toxicity. Like, why do you think that like young men or young boys are like kind of like drawn to that?
Yeah. I mean, I think it again goes into belonging and isolation. I do think some of that's contrived. I think it's made that way. Like, again, to have people who can be manipulated by a system, who will work towards something, who can be mobilized to commit atrocities, like to take it all the way to the extreme, which we are seeing happen. You need people who are who feel like they're isolated, that they're not valuable unless they do certain things. And that's what a lot of the messaging is you're not valuable unless you earn it, unless you do certain things to make yourself valuable. And these people are already valuable. And so you need to control them in order to, it's the hierarchies, right? They're contrived hierarchies so that we buy into them, so that we will behave in the way that makes other people money. Ultimately is really what we're doing. We're making other people money with the hope that you can be the person who makes the money. True. It's so why does that happen? I think because we don't know how to give people room. We're so busy. We are not sitting with each other. We're not having the conversations. And also the way that the screens are designed to activate our brains. True. There are studies that have been done that, like, the earlier that someone has access to devices, the more our brains are literally changing in relation. Our ability to feel empathy is decreasing. Like, it's not even just like, I'm thinking I want this. It has a lot to do with just how much attention we have, how much, what's the word I want? Like tension, stress tolerance that I have, like if I'm not getting things right away, we have this instant gratification. Oh, I can get it right away. We have no tolerance for the frustration. Yeah. The less tolerance we have for frustration, the more we want things right now, the more our system says, if I don't have this right now, it's bad. And so I have to have that. And then you insert this into a society that is already very patriarchal and says, you're entitled to women's bodies. You're entitled to this. You should just have access. And I mean, I would even say, like, this is statistically speaking, that whole, like, my friends made a joke and we just laughed about it. Statistically speaking, somebody isn't joking. when it
Yeah.
comes to sexual assault.
No, you're absolutely correct on that one.
So, but again, it has to do with what is affirmed around us. And when we don't have secure attachments with adults who can help frame the conversation, we look for those attachments with peers. Peers are not capable of creating a secure attachment because age-wise,
True.
but it becomes this like, I'm trying to read, how do I fit in? And the louder voices are the ones who manage. I mean, we've seen this, like the bully. Why does the bully get all the, why does everybody bow down to the bully? Why don't more people stand up? Why is it the person who's getting bullied is the one who's like, this isn't okay, but everybody else is like, well, I don't want to be the one getting that attention, so I'm just going to take a step back and not say anything.
That's true.
It's self-preservation. We're not taught to care for each other. It's not made safe to care for each other. And so we buy into the hierarchies.
Yeah. What I think is that people don't want to kind of like step out of line, and they just don't want to. And especially now that you see like the way that social media and all our platforms are really set up, they don't really like promote like community. They don't promote like, hey, just be yourself. Like sometimes you get that, but yet again, your algorithm has to be really curated for that, and then it'll start giving you that kind of content. But like on average, when it comes to like these platforms, you really don't see like, the positive side of humanity, I would say. Like you see more selfishness, you see more, hey, look, I'm this successful, you should be like me, but you're not showing like the journey that it took to get there, all your failures, all the times that you doubted yourself, you know what I mean? Like with social media especially, you only see the, hey, I want to do this, and then a couple of weeks later the success. You're now documenting all your failures, all your pitfalls, because nobody as humans, I don't think we want to see that. I think we just want to see the rise of the hero kind of journey versus, hey, look at all the things that I went through to get to, the pinnacle of where I'm at now.
Yeah. Well, going through this goes back to the frustration tolerance.
Yeah.
Going through the change naturally has stress. It has tension. It has frustration. Learning is frustrating.
Yep.
Like when you're learning something new and it doesn't just happen, like it's frustrating. And so people don't want to go through the frustration of it. They want the idea that there's going to be some magic pill that's going to just make it all come together. And when you have somebody saying, oh yeah, I have the magic pill, and scaring you with what happens if you don't have the magic pill. Like if you don't take this pill, you're going to be one of those people. You're going to be on the outside. Nobody's going to like you. You're going to be like, what holds attention is the fear and anger. And so if that's what holds attention, that's what makes money. And so if that's what makes money and that holds attention, then that's what we're going to do more of. And it's almost like a drug. It really, I mean, there's a reason why they talk about, in screen addiction is because, so the way Gabor Mate explains addiction, and he's studied addiction, he's a physician in Canada and has written several books on trauma and addiction. And he talks about addiction being something where you are given just enough of a fix, like whatever your pain is, something makes that pain less, just enough that, but not, it doesn't solve it, doesn't fix it. It just lessens it enough that you have to keep having more of it. And so anything that reduces the sense of pain, of disconnect, of whatever, it could be physical pain, could be emotional pain, whatever kind of pain it is, it lessens it enough that it's like, I want to feel better. I felt better and now I don't feel better. So I need more of that thing to make me feel better. So and so that's the kind of thing that that gets played upon is what the possibility of feeling better. I want more of that. I want to belong. I want to be in that club. I want to be with those people. What do I have to do to get that? Well, I can sell you the thing that you need to be that. again, you're the commodity, you're the product, you're the thing that's, making money for
Yeah.
people. Most people are not going to be in the club.
No, that's a big fact. And then on top of that, like you had pointed out earlier, that everybody needs a sense of community.
Yeah.
And I think that when it comes to like people who are more isolated or quote unquote, I think the term is incel, right?
Yeah, that's one of the degrees
One of
of the
I,
manosphere space is the insults.
yeah, I really do believe that things of that nature are those influencers like emotionally manipulating those people that are in that I don't want to call it a predicament, but are in that position, because I do feel that even if you're isolating yourself, you're kind of doing it to yourself, because now, even though we're talking so much, negative stuff about social media, you could also find, your group on social medias as well, like Facebook. You could join a Facebook group of whatever you're interested in and find your community. You know what I mean? Those will be some good people to hang around with.
Yeah.
Versus like the Manosphere thing or like the red pill, blue pill thing, and those is just more toxic, emotional, manipulating drivers.
Yeah. Well, anything that's emphasizing your isolation, anything that
Yeah.
is playing to or based in harming other people, right? Like
True.
the CNN article that just dropped about the Mothering was the name of the site that just got, I don't know if there was a big there was a site that was basically built as pornographic site that a lot of like 80,000 men were visiting at a time.
Yeah.
And a chunk of it was men who were drugging their wives and raping them on camera for other men to watch. 80,000 men worldwide were visiting this site. I can send you the link for it, but yeah, exactly. Yes, exactly.
Because right now my mind is trying to comprehend a few things on this one, right? One, if you're married to your spouse or your partner, why are you even drugging that person? That's number one.
Yeah.
Two, if you wanted to have that intimate time with your partner, you could just have that intimate time with your partner. There's no reason to literally assault them for somebody, for people to watch that happen. For that, you start an OnlyFans with your wife or your husband, and get paid for it, whatever. Do your thing, whatever floats your boat, right? But my brain can't make that connection. I just can't. It's just not in me.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It really is mind-boggling. I mean, and that was one of the things that kind of that was recent news, and a lot of people are like, yes, and this is what we've been talking about. This is why I say, when one person is everybody thinks, oh, that's funny, and it's like, even just the mildest like misogynistic kind of comment, and you think, whatever, they're just joking. Statistically speaking, somebody isn't joking. And so that makes you complicit if you didn't interrupt that and say, well, what's funny about that? Right? Even it doesn't have to be like, hey, here, I'm going to give you a dissertation on why that's wrong. It's just like, I don't get why that's funny. Like, can you explain that to me? Like that, even just that interrupts the behavior because it creates a pause to thinking about it. And so lots of men are not being interrupted in this behavior. Why is this happening? I don't know. There's a level of community that is lacking. I mean, and I will go back a while back, several years ago, I came across an article that was talking about, like, in a relationship, women are frequently asking, why does my spouse always want to have sex, like, all the time? And I just want to cuddle. I just want, physical affection. And it's like, it's always right to sex. And this article talked about the dynamics around gender dynamics and in heterosexual relationships, and how a lot of boys, they stop being touched by their mothers, by their fathers. They hit a certain age, used to snuggle them, used to cuddle them. There's a lot of, studies done about like when they're a baby, holding them. But like at a certain age, usually about like 3-4 years old, that touch starts going away. And so they start to learn that to have physical affection is sex is how I get physical affection. Right? Because it goes away. And I realized reading that article, I was like, oh, I have stopped hugging my kids. They hit that age and I don't snuggle them as much. I don't give them hugs. I don't sit with them, hugged on my lap or like snuggle on the couch watching it. Like we're not as physical anymore. What is that? Why did that happen? So I started putting a lot of attention to like more hugs. I talked to my husband about more hugs, more, like snuggles. Stop turning everything sexual at such a young age. Because it doesn't have to be, but what it's doing when I'm assuming that it's going there, I'm the adult. It's not there for them. But I'm placing that idea, not consciously, not directly, but by removing that kind of affection. There's an equation that's happening there. So I do think that there's a role that everybody kind of plays. And this, again, I just want to be clear for like any women who are watching, like I am not in any way saying that we are at fault for this kind of behavior. These are still choices that men are making that are really harmful. We are not to blame for it. Yeah. And what I'm always looking at, like, let's look at the system, but what are, systemic problems require systemic solutions. And there are things that we have power to do in our own lives to make a difference and have that ripple effect. So, just some of those things of how we show up with each other. And if we don't have capacity, what could we do to create more capacity? What help could we ask for that would give us more room to do that? What conversations? I just had a conversation with someone the other day who was talking about her spouse and some of the dynamics. And she's like, I don't want to have the fight, so I don't even engage it. Like, he doesn't do anything, he's not helping with stuff. I just don't engage it. And it's like, well, what if, when you have the emotional capacity, you invited him into a conversation and say, hey, could we talk about how we can support each other better? Like what you need, what I need, and open it, that invitation to a conversation. Then at least, is he going to show up to that or is he not? That's going to tell you something about the relationship. But he then has the choice to say yes or no. And usually when somebody says yes, there's more of a buy-in to actually, and when I say buy-in, there's an opening. I am more open to receiving more information, to engaging in conversation when I said yes to the conversation. So like, what are those kinds of things that we can do relationally with each other to slow down and actually invite a conversation and to think about things for a minute about how can we be better people to each other? So that's what like these big things, it's like, it's so easy to get into overwhelm and just absolute horror about how do people do this? Well, I'm not one of those people. You're not one of those people. There are a lot of people who aren't those people. In the grand scheme of things, 60, 80,000 men, that's a lot of men.
Yeah.
But there are a lot more men that aren't those men.
True. So
let's not project those men onto the men who aren't those men and invite those men who aren't those men into a conversation about how they may be complicit to those men and how they could do better.
And the saying goes that, the smallest groups usually have the loudest voices as well. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But just backtracking a little bit, because there was a topic that we touched, that we kind of touched and went about with like the whole like boys like at the age of like 3 or 4 stop receiving that physical touch. And it kind of like got me curious about it. Why is it that when it comes to boys and growing up, everything for them is like sexual deviancy or like something that you don't want to over sexualize them with like hugging them and being on top of them and whatnot. And it kind of like had me thinking, like, is that like one of the main factors why so many young boys have this like not isolation thing happening, but kind of have like this, you know, like this physical, they're deprived of like
Mhm.
physical love. You know what I mean? And I feel that later on in life, that's why like men are kind of like hypersexual.
Yeah, I think so. And this goes to there's a system at play here that we're
Yeah,
all internalizing, and without that intentional exploration of it, we do naturally buy in. And again, even with all the work that I have done with things, I unconsciously pulled back. And part of it is, I'm someone who has been assaulted
wow.
as a young person. And I mean, statistically, you're gonna, and
Still,
it wasn't as extreme as some people's, but it was an assault.
yeah,
And to say, like, I am sensitive to anything that could be sexualized. Like, I don't want to confuse anybody. I don't want to,
yeah,
like that. There's so many things that are ingrained for women around. I don't want to give the wrong impression. I don't want to show anybody the wrong thing.
yeah,
Those sorts of there was a study done recently about like where people look when they're walking at night. Men tend to look, it's at night, they tend to look where they're going, and women are scanning the sides. They're scanning the bushes
yeah,
typically, right? Those sorts of automatic internalized things influence our behaviors if we haven't looked at them. And so I when looking at it, I was like, yeah, I was already automatically at their age going, I don't want to, sexual, like, I don't want them starting to think that it's okay, and I was like, when I read that article, I thought, what would make me think that a 4-year-old
yeah.
would
Like,
be thinking like that, or like that I would confuse him with snuggling him at all? Like, that is not my stuff. That's society having a lot to say about pleasure and bodies and sex, and like looking at all of the restrictions around how our bodies should interact and how they shouldn't
yeah,
interact, and what's good and what's bad, and not like anything about like what's real, or like, what is actual safety, and
yeah,
like it's all structural. So it really stood out to me, and for me to take that in, but also to share it with my spouse and say, hey, this
yeah,
is going on, how is this impacting you? Because I noticed how this was impacting me, and it gave him some food for thought to think, yeah, I do automatically go to sexual when there's physical,
yeah.
because that was the water that we were swimming in from a young age. Physical equals sexual. How are we participating in that story that physical equals sexual? And usually physical, like, and this is a heterosexual norm,
Yeah.
typically physical equals sexual between a man and a woman. Very, very powerful social story that then plays out, I think, in harmful ways towards both people.
I really do think so as well, because like it kind of puts a boundary between, opposite sex relationships,
Mhm. Mhm.
and it also kind of like puts up this barrier where it's like, all right, at the age of like 3 or 4, and and this is me over exaggerating, at the age of 3 or 4, make sure your son isn't like out here touching little girls and all this other
Mhm.
things. Like, even as like a friendly hug is like, you have to start putting that boundary where it's like, all right, and yet again, it's an example. All right, Timmy, make sure you don't hug Jessica too close. Like, I know you two are friends, but just keep it
Mhm.
simple.
Yeah.
You don't want it going over that. And it's like, but they're children. They don't have this concept of sexuality yet.
Yeah.
So it's like, for us to
What it
like,
comes down to is consent.
mhm,
That's ultimately the thing that I focused on with my kids when it came to other people, is
yeah,
other people's bodies, is consent. Did you both agree? Like, and I have two boys. They like to wrestle.
Yeah.
Um, did they both agree to wrestle? Is there a place where they can safely wrestle? Right? Like, we're not just wrestling anywhere. You're going to break stuff. You're going to hurt yourself. We have a tumble mat. You
Yeah.
can wrestle. If you both agreed, you can both go to the tumble mat and you can wrestle. And you need to have a way to say, no, I'm not okay with this anymore. Like, these are, they're little kids. They're about 3 years apart. But these are like early consent things. You can do this with animals, right? Your pets. Like, does your cat want to be picked up? Did you get consent? Did you put your hand out to the dog and say hello and check in? Are they okay with being petted? Right? Like, there are so many ways to teach consent and take it outside of the sexual conversation. If it's not a yes, enthusiastic, it's not a yes.
I got you. It's just weird how society's put those barriers up at such a young age. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's just so, I feel like it's just a weird concept to like over sexualize young children and all that other stuff. But yet again, it's probably just me.
No, it's not though, because it goes way back. I mean, and I look at like my own. I have my grandmother was a poet, and she went through some of their old writing, her parents' old writings and stuff, and discovered her parents got married and thought that they couldn't have children because, so these my great grandparents thought they couldn't have children because my great grandfather's father caught him masturbating and told him that he was sterile. They literally thought they could not have children because that was the messaging. So it's, like the hypersexualization of bodies, it feeds into these ways that we are taught we can and cannot relate. And it's not to say, well, and this is what the Manosphere does, is throw that out. Women are all sexual, and we are entitled because of they have value in their bodies and we don't, so we need to control that value and like those sorts of things, instead of going what we're doing right now, which is questioning the very like framework of this. It's saying I need to be in control of this framework. What is this framework? What is most important? Most important is the relationality.
Yeah.
Do we have consent? Me asking my kid, would you like a hug? I have a hug for you. Would you like to snuggle? I have that. No? Okay. The answer is, going to like the family members who like, you have to give a hug to Aunt Betsy. No.
Yeah.
If you don't want to, it's your body, that bodily autonomy. I own my body, or you own your body. And then we relate to each other equally. If you say no, the answer is no. If you say, yeah, I would love a hug. Yes, there's a hug, like it the layers of societal programming make those things really tricky. And so to be able to engage your own stuff as a parent, to engage those things, to notice them. What is that about? Why is that going on? Okay. How do I want to show up? But it's hard when everything is moving so fast. We don't have time to pause and think about those things.
No, that's 100% true.
But the people have power. And as people, if we say, no, we need to take a pause. We need to slow down. This is a priority because it is impacting our kids. Because if I'm not framing the conversation, somebody else is framing it for me. What is really important? I've got to make the room for it. And and I place when we talk about like power structures and systems of oppression, who has the power in the system? Whoever has the more power in the system has more responsibility, whether you chose it or not. Most people didn't choose it. It's just what we were born into, to be able to go, okay, I'm going to show up to this.
No, and you're absolutely correct on that, because just going based off what you were saying, like the more influence you have, the more power you have. the more you have to show up and the more you have to kind of like navigate your, I don't want to say your life, but your message in a positive manner where it's beneficial to society versus detrimental. And
Mhm.
right now was what we truly are seeing is a detrimental side of social media and society, where instead of us progressing, it kind of seems like it's more of a division and a regression,
Mhm.
where you have men versus women, races versus races, and all this other
Mhm.
and all these other things, and they're like, but we're living in 2026 now. We have all this technology, we have all this knowledge at our fingertips. You would think that we would be able to step forward and kind of like drop the bullshit
Mhm.
and like figure it out, because even conversations like this where we're talking about how you know young boys are hypersexualized and these male influencers are not giving the right message because they're trying to say, oh, the more access you have to X, Y, and Z, or the way you look on this, it's going to get you to point A, point B, and point C,
Mhm.
which is not necessarily true. You know what I mean? And I tell everybody this themselves, especially with like my cousins' kids and like my nieces and my nephews. I tell them, listen, at the end of the day, all this alpha male shit, all this, want to be a baddie and all this other shit. That's all bullshit. At the end of the day, just be yourself, and you're gonna find your community. You'll find the people that enjoy you, and you'll find somebody who will enjoy you and respect you.
Yeah.
You know
Well,
what I
and
mean?
that goes to the question of what is success?
But
It's
that
framed Success is framed as the more money I have, the more successful I am.
true,
But
true.
if you look at the people who have a lot of money right now, they are not happy people. They
No,
are not people who are enjoying life. They might be enjoying finer things in life. They have more ability to do stuff, but do they have more joy? Do they experience more wonder? Do they feel more connected? Like, what does success mean to you?
yeah,
And so if somebody's like, well, that's so that I can do these things, what's important to you about those? What do you think will be different for you if you can do those things? Asking questions to understand helps you understand, but it also helps them really think about, what does this mean? What is important here? What am I emphasizing? What am I giving up for this idea of what success is? And is it actually what I want to give up?
true. But
What if it's not?
an important thing to add on to that is like,
Mhm.
what besides my success benefiting me, who else does it benefit?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you can have $1 billion, $1 trillion to yourself, but at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to spend all of that and enjoy it. So why not put that in the hands of people that you could help? And that's, I think, is a key thing that we're forgetting now, is
Yeah.
helping each other.
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
again, the more isolated we are, money isn't going to change that isolation.
True on that.
It just doesn't. You can't buy friends. You can buy pseudo friends, but you can't buy real friends. And and by being yourself, that's how learning how to connect, how to hold the spaces of frustration and tension, and like ask questions, like be curious. And this is where, again, I go back to the parents and anyone with kids in your life. Ask them questions, be curious about them. They have value at the age that they are. They're not just eventual adults.
Yeah.
They're people with interesting lives, and they have so many things to share, to think about, so many ideas, so many, like, be curious. And the more safe of a space you can give them, not to say something is okay, but to engage a conversation. Like, what do you think about that? Why is that? Well, and to frame the conversation around, like, well, these are the things, these are the values that I hold. This is why
Yeah.
this is important, right? Those things that are the relational things. What was difficult about that? What did you learn from going through that difficulty? Like, inviting them out of and some of that is putting our own screens down
True on that. And then we
to
also
be
have to
able to.
remember as adults too, like our worldview is kind of narrowed down by our own, like, biases and our experiences. When you
Mhm.
talk to a child, especially like if you go through the age ranges, like if you talk to a 5-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 15-year-old, you'll see that the 5-year-old's world perspective is grandiose, so huge. There's no real limit there. By the time they hit 15, they're kind of like limiting themselves more. But
Mhm.
that's what I'm.
There's
But
more
just
socialization.
yeah, and
Mhm.
I feel that more people need to have that view of a 5-year-old. Where the world is limitless. You have all these opportunities and pathways versus us now are like, like I probably only have a couple of things that I could probably do in life
Mhm.
versus having the ability to say, you know what, I want to go out and do that. Let me see how I could do that.
Yeah.
You know,
And I think that's the important part of not giving them the phones at a young age. And I know that can be really hard. But like having unfettered access to the internet
yeah,
reduces their frustration tolerance. It reduces their connectivity to real people. It's activating their brains in ways that are actually shaping their ability to hold attention. Like there are so many things that if we can give them real human to human attention and know how valuable that is for us as well as for them,
yeah,
it and some of it is the right of refusal. Tressie McMillan talks about this, we can refuse. People have power. We don't realize how much power we have, but if we can just say, no, I'm not going to do that. No, I'm going to turn off my work email. No, I'm going to I'm going to give myself space. It's uncomfortable to make other people uncomfortable. Oh, somebody had to
yeah.
wait. Well, maybe that'll build their frustration tolerance.
True. But like what one of my closest friends, Charisse, told me, she's like, if you don't advocate for yourself, who will?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a great thing. You have to protect your peace. You have to be able to, step out of your comfort zone. And even if it makes other people upset with you or, uncomfortable with you, if you're doing the right thing for yourself, then go out and do that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You have
Yeah.
to find another group of people to be around. If you have to, whatever it is that you have to do for you to be like a cool person and, just be non-radicalized, I would say, go out and do
Mm-hmm.
that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And definitely don't isolate yourself.
Who do I want to be in the world? How do I
Yeah,
want to show up? And what impact do I want to make? Those are the three questions I always ask with clients.
yeah,
Really thinking about those things, and they may evolve over time. They will, but like those are your foundation. Who do I want to be? How do I want to show up? So who do I want to be? How do I want to experience life? Who is this? How do I want to show up? How do I want to interact with you? And what impact do I want to make? That tells me, am I showing up? Am I having the impact? This gives me the learning opportunity. Oh, I said something, it was harmful. Oh my gosh. Okay. I can learn from that. I can do better. I can, like those kinds of things were relational, right? I need to fill my own cup oxygen mask first before I can oxygen mask other people. But like, I need to be well. My boundaries are about me,
true.
caring for me. So you're not accountable to my boundaries. I'm accountable to my boundaries.
That's a big fact.
If you're breaking what I needed, like you're getting in my space or you're interrupting when I'm trying to focus, I'm not going to control you or change you. I got to do, all right, do I need to go somewhere else? Do I need to be elsewhere? Does this, not work? Like I'm accountable to my own boundaries.
I got you on that.
And
Well,
I emphasize that because these are the kinds of things that people to be able to engage with their kids, with a healthy relationship. It's that self-work that we need to do to be able to show up.
I got you. And
Mm-hmm.
Val, before we get out of here, there's a question I always ask all of my guests, and that is, do you have any words of wisdom, final thoughts, or advice for the roomies?
Oh goodness, I think I gave a lot already.
You gave a lot, but I'm gonna ask see if you got one more in the barrel for us.
One thing for people to take away, and it really is that I think if people would take away one thing from this conversation, it would be that you do take care of yourself. You give yourself it's saying what you need. You deserve space. Whether somebody's caring for you doesn't mean you don't deserve care. Right? We all are deserving of care. We're all worthy of care. Just because somebody isn't caring for you doesn't mean that you're not worthy of it. So find a way to care for yourself, to find the people who can care for you and that you can care for. We work better together.
That's a big fact. And roomies, remember, don't be closed off to having these, these important conversations. Show kids love, have consent, and just move forward in a positive manner, and let's leave all the rhetoric behind. With that, peace out.